A question that has puzzled the science and archaeological community for centuries is how on earth the Egyptians built their pyramids. Theories range from the huge blocks being hauled into position by hundreds of workers, woolly mammoths, oxen, etc., to assistance from extra terrestrials to cut the blocks with lasers and levitate them effortlessly into place using alien advanced technology. Richard Noon even suggested a theory using canals and barges to carry massive 20 to 300 ton blocks from the quarry to the building site, then lifted by adjusting water levels with a chemical engine involving the burning candle in a bottle principle, only on a much larger scale. The simple chemical engine experiment involves a bottle inverted over a lighted candle in a pan of water, which as the wick burns causes the water to be drawn up into the bottle. He suggests also that the immense blocks were slid into place from barges using a special slippery cement. Apart from alien intervention, the problem with many of these theories by Egyptologists is threefold. 1. How these huge blocks of stone were cut from quarries using laser-like precision. 2. How these mammoth rocks were then lifted, bearing in mind that even with all our machinery today we don't have a crane that can lift 300 tons. And 3. How they were transported many miles to the site and put in place. The answer, in my opinion, is very simple. They didn't. In nature there are three main types of rock, none of which were formed in huge solid lumps. Very basically, igneous rock is formed from the cooling of molten lava. Metamorphic rocks are formed by chemically altering other rocks, usually using heat and pressure, and sedimentary rocks are formed by compression of sediment and skeletal remains on the sea floor or any other body of water. As the Egyptians were undoubtedly much cleverer than we give them credit, I believe, as do a few others, that the huge blocks were actually cast in place, rather like we pour concrete into moulds. The difference is that their type of concrete was much more complex than ours today, and they took a great deal of time over the process. Today's concrete is weak by comparison and easily identified as a conglomeration of components. That's because everything today has to be done in a hurry. Our concrete has to be mixed very easily and then has to be set rock hard very quickly, because time is money. Consequently, our concrete is cheap, weak by comparison, and doesn't last more than a few decades. It's the same with modern wooden furniture. Up until 100 years ago we were still making proper wooden furniture from wood that had been properly seasoned, sometimes for many years, before we even began to shape it. Nowadays it has hardly left the tree for it to be used in all sorts of ways, with the consequence it bends, cracks and rots very easily. The carefully fashioned and preserved wooden parts discovered in a special trench outside the Great Pyramid at Giza were able to be put together to build a magnificent Egyptian boat that is now on display in the exhibition building next to the pyramid. This was put together just as the Egyptians intended thousands of years before, though probably not by us modern humans, but by the spirits to help the departed on their journey. This patient and painstaking attention to detail runs as a common thread through the culture of our ancient ancestors. They created such magnificent works of art and architecture, not over days, weeks or months, but often years of work, and the legacy is that they have lasted, in many cases, for thousands of years. This is true of the pyramids themselves and the often intricate artwork they contained, not to mention the mummified corpses so wonderfully preserved. The exact recipe for the mummification process is still not fully understood today. It is for this reason that it seems entirely possible the blocks for the pyramids were painstakingly cast using special recipes refined over generations to mimic natural rock types such as limestone and possibly even granite for columns, obelisks, etc. It's entirely possible that the blocks were made by alternately spacing wooden moulds, maybe lined with papyrus or some other material. A paste of their stone-making substance was possibly spread thinly up the sides of the moulds and the bottom working inwards, each left to solidify using the sun's energy for days, weeks, maybe months, before applying the next thin layer. Many casings would be filled gradually in this way, for possibly a complete pyramid layer at a time. Then each gap between the alternate blocks would just need a front and back mould casing to complete the final stones of the layer. Working in this way, using probably hundreds if not thousands of workers, each layer would be created one on top of another, and they would be able to be kept perfectly in line with each other because of the slow and careful process. In creating these steps, the pyramids themselves were like a type of scaffolding, allowing the next layer to be made. Finally, working from the top down, a new recipe of fine paste may then have been used to create a flat slope all the way down to the ground, using the step formation as strong anchoring ledges. Not actual casing stones as widely suggested by science and historians today. This final paste would then have been smoothed and polished to the brilliant white surface that is widely accepted as how the finished pyramids at Giza, for example, would have looked. They are truly magnificent and visually stunning structures today. Imagine how they would have looked freshly finished. The real question therefore might be not who physically built the pyramids, but how the architects attained such futuristic knowledge of engineering and chemistry, possibly beyond what we even know today, to enable such structures and artworks to be made. It therefore begs the question, did they learn simply through experiment, or were they taught by extraterrestrials, visitors from another world, or maybe even ourselves from the future, travelling back in time?